property, if you get it right, can really be a source of financial freedom.
You're listening to the Johny Pach Show, where I connect you to the most influential, masterful minds of this generation. We're gaining insight into their lives, their achievements, and the stories along the way. Stick around if you too are determined to succeed. Right, okay, please welcome my guest. He's a lovely chap, TV and radio property expert, probably best known as the presenter on BBC TV's property auction show, Homes Under the Hammer, and he was there for the past 17 years. An active, hands-on property developer and investor himself, he also runs his own property training seminars under Making Money from Property with Martin Roberts, part of the Asset Academy family. He's recently launched his own YouTube channel, Martin Roberts Property Tidbits, which offers advice on property investment and renovation, as well as practical DIY advice for adults and children. Please welcome my guest, Martin Roberts. How are you doing?
Yay, Jonathan, I'm good. Good. It's funny though, isn't it? I mean, we all just say that because that's what we all say in our lives. And then here we are in this extraordinary circumstance right now. Right. Yet we still go, yeah, I'm fine, la, 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 la. And I quite like that, I mean, I'm fine as the new definition of fine can be at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Whereabouts are you based now? And tell us about isolation for you.
So I am based in Bath, just on the outskirts of Bath.
Lovely.
And like most people, I mean, well, not that most, I don't know, like most people, my job is considered non-essential. So we've stopped filming Homes Under the Hammer.
Yeah.
My property training courses, obviously, they normally are live events where we get people into a seminar.
Of course.
And so we've had to switch that to more online training for now.
Definitely.
And so I'm just, I'm at home with the kids.
Lovely.
My kids are off school. I've got a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. And
great.
The two kids, the wife, the 4 dogs, the guinea pig, we're all just holed up in Bath.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And hopefully getting a nice tan. It's been absolutely beautiful weather.
Hasn't the weather made such a difference? I think if this had been, earlier on in the year when there were all those terrible floods and it was raining perpetually for 40 days and 40 nights, I think life would have been much harder. I mean, I'm not saying it isn't hard for a lot of people, because it is. But I think at least if you can get out and do a walk in the sunshine, it does lift the spirit.
Well, to kind of get straight into it, I'd like to just fire over a couple of questions. And I think it'd be a great time to kind of ask you, what are your 5 tips for isolation?
Okay, so, I mean, don't constantly lament how it was is my number one.
Right.
And that is to say, oh, no, I can't do this, I can't do that, because there's no point. You're in it. So you just got to make the most of it. I try and think each day, at the end of each day, of 3 things that I've done that day that I wouldn't have done had I not been in isolation.
Yeah.
Rather than the 10 things I couldn't do. I think that the 3 things that I wouldn't do, and that could be something really simple. It could be playing badminton with the kids. It could be, things like launching my YouTube channel, which I'll come on to talk about, obviously. But, or I recorded a video in the background. Or I read a book that I wouldn't have read. So I try to think of things that I wouldn't have done rather than things that I can't do.
Gotcha.
Because I think that's really important. Tips for isolation, I think it's all about, making sure you're thinking about other people. There's people out there who are definitely struggling more than me.
Yeah.
And whatever I can do to help them, be that young children. I support the NSPCC, Childline. I've got my own children's charity, Martin Roberts Foundation. And, and I think reaching out and making sure that you can do whatever you can to help people who are struggling more would be a good one. Because, we've got to get through this feeling like we are, we've been through that, but if we can come out of it feeling slightly enhanced and like better people, and a lot of that has got to come from doing good, hasn't it? Then I think that's really important. If you're looking at more financial stuff, like, property investments and all that kind of thing, I mean, now is a time for research, now is a time for planning, now is the time to really looking forward to what will happen when we come out of this. And, we can make some predictions about that, but we can definitely be as well prepared as we can be for whatever might happen. So using the time proactively. And then if in any way you can, just make the most of it. I mean, that sounds crazy, doesn't it?
No,
this
right.
will hopefully never happen again. So even if that's just spending more time with your family, then that in itself is a great thing. So rather than really spending all your time cheesed off that we're in this situation, try somehow to find it in you to make the most of it.
Absolutely. You're so right. It's all about being within the present moment, spending as much time as you can with your loved ones, reading a book, getting fit, get out in the sunshine. Actually just take a little bit of a chill pill for a minute, because we all do work so very hard, 9 to 5 grind. Just take a step back for a moment and just absorb everything that's around you.
I'd be interesting to see how many people have a permanent life change.
Yeah.
Not enforced on them,
for sure,
but because they want to, following this. Do they want to go back to driving up and down the motorway to go to a meeting? Or will they just say, tell you what, let's do a Zoom call, or let's do a Skype call, or let's do, whatever. It worked. It worked for 3 months or 3 weeks or however long we're in this for.
Yeah.
Why does that have to change? And if there can be some positive effects on that in terms of pollution and the environment, then that's again something that's positive.
No, you're absolutely right. No, I'm totally with you on that, Martin. And what you just touched on there in regards to the property investment market, I really want to pick your brains on a lot of information on that. Before we get into all of that, I do want to touch on I'm a Celebrity, because I'm a massive fan of the show. Ant and Dec, I absolutely love them. I just want to kind of step back for a moment and just kind of get your experience from it. How was the show for you?
It was extraordinary. Like you, I've been a fan of Homes. I've been a fan of Homes and Abbey, of course. I've been a fan of I'm a Celebrity for years. My kids, they're 10 and 13 now. But it was each year. It was the one time of the year we allowed them to stay up late and watch I'm a Celeb. So we'd watched it all as a family.
Yeah.
So when I had the opportunity to go on, I mean, my kids were just over the moon, and so was I. I mean, it's one of those just iconic shows, isn't it? It's
Definitely.
like a rite of passage. It's and yet there was only how many people? About 200 people in total have ever done it.
Well,
so you are in a very, very small group.
I was going to say, I was just going to cut you short there. I've always kind of wondered, how does that work with celebrities? Do they put you in kind of like a lucky hat and then they pick you out and think, right, we're going to fly them out to Australia now? How does the whole production with that work?
Well, there's two groups of people. There's the groups of people who really want to do it.
Yeah.
And the groups of people who they really want to do it.
Okay.
And the groups of people who they really want to do it get paid the big bucks.
Yeah.
Because they might not do it otherwise.
Right.
And then there's those people who, unfortunately, I'm in the other category, which is they really want to do it.
Yeah.
So they don't get paid the big bucks, but they do get the experience. And it is a fairly unique, life experience of which, there will never be anything quite like it for me. And it was, nothing can quite prepare you, until you get there. You don't quite believe that it's as tough as it is.
Yeah.
But it is much, much harder than it looks.
Well,
I mean, it looks pretty hard, but it's much harder.
I was kind of going to say, it's kind of a little bit like isolation, isn't it? Because we always hear about celebrities when they come out, they kind of say throughout the whole day, it's so flipping boring until you get a task.
I mean, really, bear in mind, the show goes out every day mostly, doesn't it? And your bits that they film probably fill about 40 minutes of television.
Oh, okay.
Bear in mind, there's 23 hours and 20 minutes, which they haven't shown of your day. Well, okay, so some of that you're sleeping. Well, a lot of it is really, really boring. And,
right.
Bizarrely, the highlight is when you go off to do the various challenges. And here's the thing, on telly, it happens really quickly, but those challenges, the Bush Tucker trials, you'll be out of camp for about 4 hours doing those.
Really?
Yeah, because you sort of traipse out of the jungle and then you go to the area where they've set up these amazing challenges.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, there's been a team of people working on each challenge for over a year.
Right.
So each of those challenges you see has had a team of people, a dedicated team creating this challenge, trying it, testing it, safety testing it.
How amazing.
For a year. So you go out there, and then there's all the cameras and the people and the da-da-da. So, yeah, you're gone for about 4 hours.
Wow.
I mean, you spend about an hour walking backwards and forwards across those blooming bridges.
And kind of, obviously, you're living in close quarters, and you're going to be ruffling each other's feathers. Who did you like? Who did you dislike?
Oh, I think we all agreed we had a really strong group.
Yes.
And, you know, I mean, I had my run-ins with a few of them, but in general, you know, we were a very close-knit group. And certainly as it got towards the end and there was just a relatively small number of people left, you felt like, you know, really, really bonded with those people. You know, but it's just like in life, you don't get on with everybody, do you? But a normal circumstance, you just walk away. If you're thrown together into a fairly tight-knit, you know, location where you really can't get away. And bear in mind that, you know, the food thing is really serious. I mean, you are literally hungry.
Really?
And, you know, I think you're given, they work out that you're allowed 800 calories of food a day. Bear in mind the average person, you know, the average
2,500,
male is 2,500. The average female is about 2,000 calories a day. That's what you just need to sort of just get by on. So they've cut your calorie intake by a third. You're then stressed. You're then made to do things where you're tired. You know, you're missing your family. You've already been out there for a week where you were locked into a hotel, not knowing what's going on. So psychologically, you're in quite an odd place. So it's not surprising that there are flashpoints. And it is surprising that there aren't more.
I've spent a lot of time with Larry Lamb. You had a great relationship with him.
Yeah, we did have an interesting relationship. That's for sure. I think I'm not sure he particularly liked me, but I never had a problem with him. He was definitely. I don't know for whatever reason. Again, if you met him at a party, we met each other in other circumstances, we'd be absolutely fine. And then in there, I think, you know, he was missing. He had various things going on, and I think I came in second, you know, along with Danny Baker. And,
yeah, great.
You know, and I think he was sort of, you know. I think
he's a funny guy, Danny. I wouldn't take it literally. He's a funny guy, isn't he?
Oh, Danny's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, funnily enough, we actually got on really well. We had our fights.
Yeah.
But we got on really well. Oh, I felt so privileged to be in the jungle with him because he has got so many stories to tell, and you know, people who he's met, who, you know,
I bet,
just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. The sad thing they cut out actually was him and Larry we spent most of their time singing.
Oh, really?
Because Danny Baker was like always coming up with old tunes and funny stuff. Because of copyright, they weren't allowed to use it. So there's so much lovely stuff that people didn't get to see. But you know, we all experienced it, and I felt quite privileged to be in the company of these, you know, these great people, really. So
just to kind of finish up on that, what did you discover about yourself when you left the jungle?
So, you know, it's quite interesting because I went in there and I think a lot of people weren't quite sure who I was or how I came over at first. And then by the end of it, you know, people had really got to know me a bit more, including the public. And I think people had sort of turned around and you probably just said that they sort of had seen the real Martin and actually decided they quite liked him. And that was really lovely to see. So I think one of the lessons for me, I suppose, was, you know, initially I can, you know, and since then I've tried to temper how I am at first and the recognition that sometimes you can come over a little bit, I don't know, however. And if you can just, you know, be mindful of that, then, you know, that sets things off on a better footing when you meet people and you're with people. So,
I see.
You know, yeah.
One of those. And then what's the last kind of experience that you'll look back on that certain part of the jungle and think, that was a great moment. I'll hold on to that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bit towards the end when the girl, we had a thing, obviously had the great thing going with Adam, and we had a great camaraderie. and some real fun and games and some practical jokes, which was great. But at one point, we decided to split up into two teams, the girls' teams and the boys' team.
Yeah.
And they both wanted me on their side. And that's nothing to do with my sexuality. That was just because they wanted me to be in their, they both wanted me to be in their gang. And I don't know about you, probably not, but for me, when we were playing, at school, and you had to pick your teams, and there'd be team leaders. I was always one of the ones that was last, that nobody particularly wanted in their team, which was, pretty bad, really.
Well, do you know what I was? I was. I know where you're coming from.
It was really nice to have these two groups both wanted me to be in their gang.
Right.
And it was a stupid little thing, but it meant a lot to me.
Do you know what? Isn't that weird how life does work out? Because you've probably had a hidden kind of feeling about that for so many years, and then and then a moment like that, and it just kind of releases it all from you. That's really nice. That's really nice to look at that. Look, it was great. It was great to kind of cover that, and nice to get the kind of behind the scenes moments on that. Let's talk about the most incredible show. I mean, look, this started in 2003, 1.5 million viewers per episode on BBC. Tell me about Home Under the Hammer. What an incredible show to be a part of.
I know. And you talk about 1.5 million people. I mean, I don't know how many people are watching it at the moment. I think our viewing figures are the highest they've ever been.
Right.
Because people have got more time at home.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it was an idea. I've been working on a show called Wish You Were Here, which was a travel show. And somebody I was working with said, I'd like to come up with an idea for a property show. So we sort of worked together on this fledgling idea. And then he went off to the BBC and they said, so we'll make us 10 shows. And we were like, oh, wow, 10 shows, fantastic. So then we made those 10 shows and then they said, that was actually quite good, really. Can you make us another 20? And it's like, oh, wow, right. Oh my gosh, 30 shows, that's amazing. Right. Anyway, fast forward 17 years, and we've just been commissioned for Series 26.
Wow.
Which takes the number of shows we've made to over 1,750. And it also means that by the end of this run of production, we will be 20 years old. I mean,
fantastic.
That is any TV show is and I've been in it since the start. So, I mean, it's one of those things, John, you just sometimes you don't know these things are going to take off. We hit a nerve. We made entertaining television. I decided to present it in a certain way, which I think has proved to be quite popular.
Definitely.
I know my stuff. I am a property developer. I do it, so I'm not having to have somebody write stuff for me, which would all get a bit tedious. I can speak from the heart. It's all a bit make it up as you go along, but it's all done with knowledge. And I think people have warmed to that and realised that actually I do know what I'm talking about, because you can see through. I think sometimes people don't give people who are viewers of televisions much credit with much sense. I think people know. They can tell when people know what they're talking about.
I'll tell you what, Martin.
That's why I like the physicists. That's why we like experts, because we know they know their stuff.
That's right.
And hopefully that's how I come over, because I do know my stuff.
Well, from a TV presenting perspective, to present to camera unscripted like that, it shows, as you said, so much confidence and quality in what you're talking about. So, no, it's brilliant. I do really like that.
Well, thank you. It's one way of doing it. I'm never going to be on the stage, am I? But in terms of producing an entertaining show, I think it works, and I'm proud of it.
You've got the most incredible testimonial out there with Mark Wahlberg absolutely loving the show. How does that feel?
Oh my God. When I saw that, I can't believe it. If anyone doesn't know, Mark Wahlberg, the Hollywood actor, was overdoing what's called a press junket for one of his films. I think it was Deepwater Horizon. And he was just being interviewed by what they do. They have like about 10 interviewers, just one after another, and he does this, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, one of them asked him about what TV shows he watches when he's over. And he said, it's this kind of property show I watch, and there's this guy who goes into homes at the Borough auction, and the interviewer goes, "I mean, Homes Under the Hammer?" he goes, yeah, I really love that show. And I was like, oh my God, that's Mark Wahlberg.
That's absolutely fantastic. And I know Lucy Alexander very well. I've interviewed her quite a few times. What's she like to work with?
Oh, me and Lucy got on like a house on fire. I mean, of course, bear in mind, we don't really get to see each other than when we're doing the linky bits, which is a bit more slick. Because obviously the other presenters are off doing their properties and I'm off doing my properties. And we get together when we're doing the bits that hold the show together. So I didn't see Lucy on, loads and loads and loads of times in a year, but, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. But then, since she stopped doing the show, we've met socially on loads of occasions.
Oh, that's great.
And we'll always be very close because, she was my screen wife for 13 years. So,
yeah. Oh, no, she's a great girl, actually. I want to kind of find out, how come you're so passionate about property? Where did it kind of all start from?
So my dad told me that his dad's dad almost bought a street of houses in Liverpool for like 100 quid. And his wife at the time, and my dad's great granddad, I guess, stopped him buying this street of houses. So I think somewhere in my blood there is this history of property interest. And my dad was into DIY, and so I grew up in a house, and that's one of the reasons why we're going to talk about my YouTube channel in a minute. But why I'm doing kids DIY on the YouTube channel, because I want kids to be inspired to do DIY. Because I grew up in this household where Dad did everything, so he was always doing DIY projects.
Yeah,
and so it was just in my blood. So when I got my first house, the natural thing for me to do was to do lots of DIY projects. So I put a new kitchen in, I did the bathroom, blah, blah, blah. Right. And at the time, I'd started out in local radio, and I was working for a local radio station, BBC Radio Manchester and Radio Lancashire and Radio Merseyside. And I was earning diddly squat from that. But like 25 quid a week, I think it was at the time. But 2 years on, circumstances changed and I had to move house. So I came to sell the house and it doubled in value. So I paid 23 grand for it.
Right.
And I think I sold it for 51,000. So
fantastic.
I made over 20 odd thousand, 30,000 quid. In the same time, I'd probably earned about £2,000 from my day job as a media person.
Right.
So I suddenly thought, oh my gosh, maybe property can be something that can not only just be a roof over your head, it's actually something that can actually make money. And that was a sort of penny drop moment for me. I only did what I knew, and that made me loads of money, and I had fun doing it. So it sort of carried on from there, really. And then sort of that spiraled into my own properties, and then obviously ended up with Homes Under the Hammer, and now property training courses and all the property training which I do to try and inspire people that property, if you get it right, can really be a source of financial freedom. And that's really good.
Well, we're going to touch on that, to be honest with you. So obviously the property investment market at the moment, firstly, is obviously we called it the title of the program, How to Become Financially Free with Property Investment. In a nutshell, can you explain that a little bit further for us?
Okay, so by financially free, I think what we're aspiring to is releasing you to do whatever your personal desires are, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean give up your day job, but it could be. It doesn't necessarily mean that you buy fast cars and go on expensive holidays, but it could be. It's giving you choice. And I think there aren't many, even with what's going on right now, where there's a lot of uncertainty, there aren't many other ways that pretty much, if you do it right, you learn how to do it right, which is why I do my property training courses, that we can't teach most people how to make a significant amount of money through property. And you can do then whatever you want with that money. You could even give it away to charity. You could go on holidays and fast cars. You could send the kids to private school, and you could do whatever, give up the day job. If you get it right, there are very few things which are legal, which are there for the taking for most people if they are taught how to do it right. It's not like you need to be a virtuoso violinist. It's not like you need to have some, extraordinary God-given talent. We can just teach you how to do it. And what people, I think, how they fall down is they think it's easy. It's not easy at all. There's lots of pitfalls, and there's lots of ways you can do it wrong, and there's lots of obstacles that you come up with. But there's ways around all of those things. There's ways of financing stuff if you haven't got a very good credit history. There's ways of, renovating properties with other people's money. There's even buying properties, things on lease auction, where, you don't even have to have too much money up front. There's all sorts of clever things you can do. And it always amazes me that people just think they can stumble into the world of property and kind of get it.
Yeah.
Well, of course, you wouldn't stumble into being a brain surgeon and just expect you could just get it, or being a vet, or, whatever. You'd expect to train yourself. And so, that's one of the reasons why we have the property training courses that I do, is that you need help. And there's lots of ways you can do it. I mean, I do online courses, and I've got my classroom type courses. I've got a whole course about buying at auction that's like as a 12-part downloadable thing you can do. And there's lots of ways you can do it, but at the end of the day, you do need advice, you do need help, and you do need to be surrounding yourself by people who've made the mistakes and who can teach you how to do it. So coming back to your question, financial freedom is whatever that means to you. Okay. And through property, I truly believe that you can achieve it.
Welcome to America's Next Investment, a new era of investing.
Hi guys, it's Johny Pach here again, and I'm back this time to host a brand new show with a brand new podcast for America's Next Investment. A&I podcast series is where companies can gain exposure, brand awareness, and promote their capital raise. A&I podcast viewers will also have the opportunity to invest in companies featured on the A&I podcast. So make sure you stay tuned for America's Next Investment podcast show. Check out americasnextinvestment.com for the latest air dates and times. If you're a company and you want to be featured on the A&I podcast series, contact us today. Details can be found on our show notes page at the A&I website. I'm Johny Pach, and stay tuned for America's Next Investment podcast series. Okay, that's excellent. Thanks so much for that answer. And I kind of thought about it when you were talking about it just then. That my company, we're all about investment lead generation, and we work with the biggest property companies globally. And as you were talking just then, I thought to myself, wow, we're getting a lot of traction with some of our major property companies at the moment, running very big campaigns with us. We touched on this previously. It's not all doom and gloom with the property market at the moment with COVID-19 period, is it?
No, absolutely not. And I think one of my favourite quotes is from Warren Buffett, who is obviously, one of the world's most respected investors. And one of my favourite quotes from him is when he says, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." And there is an opportunity, I believe, almost never to be repeated, which is about to fall onto our laps, where people who do this professionally and know how to do it correctly will have opportunities that they'll never be repeated. And I think it's a bit like being a stock market investor. You can make money when the market's going up, and you can make money when the market's going down, if you know what you're doing. Now, it does sort of sort the men out from the boys, in that people who are just casually doing it are there to make massive mistakes.
Okay.
But I think with the right training and support, there are going to be some amazing opportunities. And people obviously all the time are asking me at the moment, what is going to happen when we come out of this current situation.
I was going to ask you, yeah.
I mean, the fair answer to that is nobody quite knows the kind of bigger picture financial situation that we're going to be in.
Okay.
But on the assumption that, that everybody in the world is going through this, and that everybody in the world who's on the financial side has an interest in the whole world not going foot,
yeah.
I think we will be all right. Now, in terms of short term, what will happen to house price market? I mean, I think coming out of this, it is going to depend on the financial situation. But I'm really thankful that we've almost had everything put on pause. Right now, quite rightly, people are discouraged from actually moving house. You can't valuers aren't doing valuations. Estate agents pretty much on pause. Coming out of this, I think that's really good that we've had this period of almost like just pause, because it's not like there's been panic selling. It's not like there's been crazy stuff going on. It's almost like, when the stock market goes through a period and it drops a certain amount, it sets off an alarm which stops the market in totality.
Yeah.
So it stops it dropping off a cliff. And I think that's what's happened here, is that the market has been paused. I think that's a great thing, because it means that there's no panic selling, there's no chaos. And I think that will give the market a chance to find its feet. And it may well be that in the short term there is a correction, prices drop a bit, and whatever. And certainly if the world goes into complete financial meltdown, who the heck knows what will happen. Yeah. But on the assumption that doesn't happen, I think, medium to long term, which is where you should be looking. People who've struggled financially through this might have to reconsider buying houses, so they're going to be renting. So there's going to be a demand for rental. I think there's going to be some opportunities, for people who do desperately need to sell, who are going to be, thinking about reducing prices to get deals across the line quickly. And if you're there and you can act quickly, I think there's some opportunities there for you. Yes. So, I'm not, and I've got a big portfolio of properties. I'm not jumping off a road bridge. I mean, if the market goes down, the market goes down. I think, okay, well, I've lost value on the properties I own, but I'm going to be able to buy some more cheaper. If the market goes up, well, okay, so I'm going to pay more for the house I'm going to buy, but the ones I own have gone up in value. What are the yields? How much am I earning from my rental properties? All those kind of things. I'm on the side of positivity rather than doom and gloom.
No, that's brilliant. I'm really with you on that. And I think whilst we're all in this isolation period, it's all about self-education. And I think it's the time to kind of sit back, look at the market, do your absolute research on how and where to buy next. And look, it is all about self-education. And I do want to touch on your seminars/webinars at the moment. Look, one thing I wanted to kind of touch on. So you mentioned part of your course, you actually give some great information and you talk about buying in auctions. So I wanted to kind of ask you, what do you look for in property investments when buying at auctions?
Okay, so just to say, I mean, obviously I'm working. My brand is making money from property with Martin Roberts, yes. And that's part of the Asset Academy family, as you said at the start. And I've got my own website, which is martinrobertspropertyeducation.com, which has got lots of different options. And one of those options, is to look at the world of buying through auctions. And obviously that is something which I'm very, very, very keen on. Yes. I mean, currently, obviously, the auctions are pretty much, they've either gone online or they're just not happening at all.
Okay.
They are a barometer of the market, and I think when we come back, it'll be really interesting to see what is happening in the auctions. I think there's going to be some really interesting activity there. But they do offer an amazing opportunity to get good value property.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that every single auction property is a bargain, but there are definitely bargains at auction. And if you know what you're doing, and as you say, right now, people should definitely be using this time to do their research on which areas of the country they should be thinking about investing. Where are good yields happening? Where are the areas where people are putting a lot of money into infrastructure? Other people's money building shops, building supermarkets, building, whatever they might be, new rail links, etc.
Yeah.
And so what areas of the country should you be considering? And then what auctions are available in those areas, and what prices should you be paying for a 2-up-2 down terrace? What would look at historical stuff before this, the latest sort of lockdown. What were the average prices for a 3-bed terrace or whatever it might be?
Yeah.
And so you'll come out of this really ready to hit the starting blocks, because it won't take long for people to catch up. But if you can just be ahead of the game, then I think that's a really, really great place to be.
Yes.
And you can definitely benefit from the opportunities that will undoubtedly be out there. And I think auctions are, something that people should definitely consider. And I've got a book called Making the Property Auction Guide, which guides people all about buying at auction. I've got a 12-part online sort of course called Property Auction Masterclass, which really goes into great depth about buying at auction. Because again, there are lots of pitfalls. It's not complicated, but it's very easy to get it wrong.
Yeah, of course. No, absolutely. And when all of this is kind of over this period, where would you say in the UK are the hotspot locations? Do you have any in mind that you can share with the listeners?
So it depends on your strategy, okay?
Right.
So I'm sort of, let's remind people of the basic strategies. If you like, the flip it strategy, where you buy a property, ideally undervalue, you do it up and you sell it on at a profit. There's the other strategy, which is the buy and hold strategy, the buy to let, where you buy a property and then obviously you keep it and rent it out. So really, if you're looking generically, there's no such thing. You have to choose which area of the country is going to suit your specific strategy.
Yeah.
So it may well be that there's properties up in Derby which aren't particularly sexy, aren't particularly the sort of things which you could add a lot of value to. 2-up-2 down terrace, it's going to cost you 80 grand. In a rundown state, you do it up, you sell it for 110. You spent 20 grand doing it up, you make 10 grand. If you were to hold that property, that might get you 600 quid a week, a month. So your £100,000 invested in that is netting you 7.2%, yield. So that's a great sort of yield.
Right.
In London, you might put the same amount of effort into, say, doing up a 2-up-2 down terrace that you bought for 400 grand. You spend 30 grand doing it up and you sell it for 550. So you might make 100 grand, as a quick turnaround. So again, it's different strategies for different places. I mean, I like places which are, having a lot of, infrastructure built into them, and all this information is available there if you do your research. So, you could have known about the high-speed rail link to the channel probably 10 years before they even started that, because they were doing consultation documents and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So why weren't you buying around Ashton International? Why weren't you buying around the places where those interchanges are going to be? Why weren't you seeing that Stratford has got to be going places because, the Olympics is coming? I mean, that was on the cards, whatever.
Yeah.
So you just got to be ahead of the game. And okay, you missed those. But what about Crewe? Crewe is going to be a major interchange for HS2. Do you think HS2 is going to happen? Well, I don't know, probably. I think it's a long-term investment, but should you be thinking about around there? There's a major bend in the Y, that junction point. Would that be a good place to have property? What about Derby, where there's going to be an HS2 depot and a major interchange? What about South Wales, where they've got, lots of infrastructure going in for all sorts of things, and they've just, taken off the toll on the M4 road bridge, which saves people £7 each way, or a lorry £100 each way. What? Not each way, but one way. What difference is that going to make to the economy? I'd say quite a lot. So should I be buying a 50 grand terrace in the valleys, which has got good rail links into the centre of Cardiff? I don't know, all this kind of stuff.
That's really interesting information there you supplied there, Martin. And look, each investor is different. Their portfolio is completely different. And I wanted to kind of ask you, what should they be investing in? Is it your standard resi buy-to-let stuff? Or are they looking for distressed or service accommodation investment or care home or student or hotel investment? What do you feel on kind of the actual investment opportunities?
So on my courses, we do a basic course, like a foundation course, if you like, over a 3-day weekend.
Great.
And then we have the opportunity for people to sort of like specialise in the advanced trainings of things like houses of multiple occupation, HMOs, or social housing, or student housing, or what's called option agreements, and and really interesting ways of doing stuff. So I think it's finding something which you really think works for you, and everyone's personal circumstances will be slightly different. So you might not like the idea of having rented accommodation for students. You might want to look after rented accommodation for students yourself, or you might want to have a managing agent. You might think, how about holiday lets? We've got a boom in Airbnb and stuff like that. Could that be something I consider? With all the positive benefits or the potential that has. On the other hand, what about doing social housing? Or have I got the skills where I can start small and do the whole strategy of buying a place, doing it up, selling it on, buying the next one, doing it up, selling it on, buying up the next one, and then after 4 doing it like that, buy one to hold and then go on to the next one. And a lot of people adopt that kind of strategy. So I think there's lots of things that come into it. It's got to, at the end of the day, it's also, it's going to sound corny, but you've also got to enjoy it. Because,
right.
If one thing this whole experience has taught us, it's maybe sometimes we do sweat the small stuff, and sometimes we need to have a bit of a reset and realize what's important. And I think time with family and time to enjoy working is possibly really something to refocus on. And
yes.
Maybe that'll come as a result of this period we've gone through.
Definitely. Look, you're absolutely right on that. And look, we have to completely diversify with the current times. And I know that you're doing that with your current seminars, and you've switched them to webinars. One thing on your site, which I was quite interested in, you mention the insider tricks of the trade. Now, I don't want to give my listeners too much away, because they have to sign up to your seminars and webinars, and they have to come and see you. We know that. But is there anything that you could, just a few that you could kind of give the listeners as a little preview, the tricks of the trade?
No. I'm joking. No, the trick, to be honest, the tricks of the trade are simple things like just making people aware that things you might not be aware of, like all the options for finance that there are out there, and the ways that you can set up financial structures in such a way that it benefits you massively, or go into joint ventures with people who may well want to be completely hands off, angel investors. But an angel investor could be your friend, it could be a parent, it could be, a mate. I mean, it could be somebody who's got loads of money, doesn't want to get their hands dirty, but actually he's got £100,000 sloshing around. And if you took that £100,000 and you mortgaged it up to £200,000, you buy a house for £200,000, you've got the efforts. You put the effort into doing up that property, you sell it for $300,000, you split the 50 grand profit. There's all sorts of clever ways of doing this. So it's getting people to think outside the box, really, about how, just on one angle, and that's just on the finance, and so look, and also looking that there are ways of, I think an insider tip would be, a lot of people don't even start because they think they haven't got the money to do it. And I think you need to realise that there's always ways. There are always ways of being creative. And even if you've got a poor credit history, you've had tough times in the past, or whatever it may be, good people out there will be able to help you. And it's a real shame to think that you wouldn't even venture into it because you think you're a no-hoper, because nobody is a no-hoper. And so I think it's teaching people that, an insider tip is that there are ways for everybody to do this. And don't be put off thinking, I couldn't raise the finance, I can't afford it, da-di-da-di-da. there are ways you can.
So that's interesting, because I was going to ask you about your seminars, and I want to know, before isolation, the locations, and obviously I want to find out when your next webinars are. So if you can give a little plug on that. But I also wanted to ask you the major take home for investors at your seminar, and it's possibly that, isn't it, that you do not need a great deal of capital to get the ball rolling, basically.
No, you don't. But also the major take home is there's more to it than meets the eye, and you need to invest in yourselves. You need to learn how to do it properly, because you can, whatever it costs you, if it costs you £1,000 to learn how to negotiate a deal or set up a business properly, you're going to get that back 10,000 times over in the history in your lifetime of doing property. So don't shy away from making an investment in yourself in terms of training, just recognise that fact that you can't just stumble into this and think it'll be okay, because you wouldn't do that on any other profession. And what we're trying to get is people to view being a property investor as a proper profession, and to do it professionally. Yes. And that's treating your tenants well. That's treating everybody in the whole equation fairly. And building yourself a team of people who you act respectfully to, and who you can trust, and building that dream team, and negotiating with people so that they share your successes and don't overcharge you when you might have things don't go quite to plan, like at auction. A simple tip, the deal I have with my solicitor is that he looks over my auction packs, my legal packs. He doesn't charge me. Right. But when he does get one that goes ahead, I pay him twice what his normal fee would be.
Yeah, that's right.
So he benefits on the successes. But coming back to how we do it, we normally do. There's a free sort of come along and see what it's all about event that people want to go to, but often people are very comfortable just to go along to the 3-day weekend, which is usually over a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in locations all around the country.
Okay.
Where we get together and we teach you sort of from start to finish the sort of the basics, the fundamentals of becoming a professional property investor. Fantastic. And then that leads on to, if people want it, advanced trainings with mentors and whatever. And we run those courses throughout the country, throughout the year normally. And at the moment, obviously, we are planning those in the future, and hopefully that won't be too far away. But in the meantime, we're just keeping people with lots of stuff they can be doing to get ready to go on those courses. We're doing online webinars, and I've done 2 or 3 in the last couple of weeks, where we're just geeing people up, giving them advice on how they can best prepare themselves for what's coming up, getting them ready to go on their 3-day course if they haven't been on it already, or letting them know how to further their knowledge and make the most of the experience they've learned if they have been on the. And I mean, all the details of those webinars is on my website, my property training website.
I'll share the link. Yeah.
Yeah, martinrobertspropertyeducation.com. And, all the updated seminars and everything we're doing. And obviously that, the introduction ones are all free to attend. And then if people want to take it further, then there's lots of options for them.
What's the appetite, Martin, on the webinars? What's the conversation? Are investors hungry for it right now?
Absolutely. I've been really surprised. In fact, surprisingly, we are really busy in terms of, obviously, we can't get people face-to-face in a room, but our webinars are. I did one the other night, and it had a limit. I think Zoom has a limit of 300. We had 600 people who couldn't get on, so we had 900 people who wanted to take part in that webinar. So, in some ways, a bit like travelling to meetings, people I think have realised that we can't have exactly the same experience, doing it on Zoom or Skype. But actually, it's 85% there. And do I really want to be schlepping up and down a motorway or stuck in a traffic jam? When I could actually be sitting in my, in my lounge,
in your PJs,
So they're actually going really, really, really well. But I think, I am still a great believer in getting people together in a room, and sharing that whole seminar experience. And certainly when it moves on to the latter stages of sort of advanced trainings and things, where you're out with a mentor who's actually guiding you through your first property deal, holding your hand, helping you get finance, helping you choose properties and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing quite like the face-to-face experience.
The energy,
but I think what's really important is, it's also about being part of a community. I mean, with Asset Academy, you are part of a community, and we've got this a very active face group that supports. Everyone supports each other, because often you can be feeling quite lonely as an investor. You think, oh gosh, this is happening or that's happening, and nobody's ever felt like this before, and I must be the only person who's feeling this. And of course, you're not. We all go through it, and it's really nice to have that network around you. People who can support and help.
You're absolutely right. It's all about your peer group, and you've got a massive following anyway. And I know that this isolation period has now allowed you to set up your own YouTube channel, Martin Roberts Property Tidbits. Absolutely love that. Yeah. So tell us about that. Tell us about the crux of that.
So, it's one of those things that's been on the cards for so long. And it requires a lot of effort, as you probably know. And I just never prioritised it. And obviously I've had more, like everybody else, I've had more time to do the things I haven't got round to in the past. So one of the things which I really felt strongly about was getting some of my property thoughts and my property trainings and my property mentoring onto YouTube. And so my property tidbits, Martin Roberts Property Tidbits, has got one element of it, or two or three elements, which is all about the real sort of, I call it my property masterclass. It's the real nuts and bolts of investing and making decisions and how you finance, and stuff for first-time buyers and why you invest in property and how you invest in property and all that kind of real sort of stuff. But I also wanted to make lots of interactive stuff. So we've got a property clinic where people can ask me questions. And then I also thought, people have got a lot of spare time at the moment and they might be at home more than usual. And obviously I've done DIY myself since I was a child. And I thought maybe I'll impart some of this knowledge. So to get people to do some DIY projects. So I thought I'll film some DIY projects, simple ones that people can get involved in. And because I'm me, I've done it like it's a TV show. So it's properly filmed with a proper camera and nice editing. And we put some really, really useful and interesting projects that people could do, from making a storage box to all sorts of putting up a shelf, all sorts of stuff.
Excellent.
And then that sort of spun off into the idea of, why don't we also get kids involved and come up with some project ideas that children can do? Because I think DIY is almost becoming a bit of a lost art, and that's a real shame, because not only can you use it like I do for actually doing my own DIY and the projects I'm working on, but stuff around my own home, and it's a shame that children these days don't necessarily have parents or anywhere that they go to where they could learn to do DIY. So I've got a 10 and a 13-year-old child, Megan and Scott, and so they just helped me making some videos for kids, DIY videos for kids, making something which they might find quite useful, like a bike ramp or a swing ball. A funky light fitting for their bedroom. So they're on there as well. So I hope it's a channel that just, there's something for everybody. And if you want to go there for hard-nosed property advice, investment advice, that's on there. But if you want to be inspired with you to make some DIY project with your kids, you can go there as well for that.
Absolutely fantastic. You know what? That's absolutely brilliant, Martin. I'm certainly going to log in. I need to personally send you a few videos if that's all right. I need your advice on a couple of things around the house. I was thinking, right, I need to send Martin this and that. It's funny though, isn't it? Because we've been in this whole, obviously the whole isolation period, we're looking around the house like, right, need to paint that, need to fix the door, need to fix that cupboard, got to sort out that damping issue. And everybody's completely in the same boat. So you're creating something which is current, very informative, and absolutely bang on the money for the right time period. Well done.
Well, thank you. It's kind of you to say that. It's just, and I think to delve slightly deeper into it.
Yeah.
It's not only about making something. It's also quite good for your mental well-being.
Yes.
Because one of the ways that I try and get through this period is, to think about the three things in the day that I've done that I wouldn't have done had it not been for this circumstance. rather than the 10 things I couldn't do. And if one of those things is a creative thing that I've done with my children or just on my own, and I can look at that, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, like you'd buy in a shop. And it's better that it isn't like that. But if you can look at something that you have done yourself, whether it's something for yourself or something you're going to give away to somebody else, that makes you feel good. And that makes you feel like that day was worthwhile to a degree.
Totally
and I
agree.
think the more little things we can add up in our day that make us feel like that, the better. Because it'll just help us mentally through this whole thing.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And you take pride with your home as well. And I personally don't want to go back to my office in Moorgate. I'm quite happy working from here. I'm really enjoying it. Can you just tell us, where can we find your YouTube page?
So my YouTube, if you search Martin Roberts Property Titbits, that's Titbits, on YouTube it should come up. And then on there's all the different playlists. If you want to get involved in some of the more serious stuff, it's the masterclass, there's the property clinic, there's the DIY for kids, there's DIY for adults. And I'm actually doing a couple of actual practical house renovations that I'm working on. Was working on until we had lockdown.
Yeah.
And you can follow me through on those as well. So it's all there. It's just on YouTube. You search Martin Roberts Property Tidbits, hopefully you'll find it.
And what's coming up for Martin Roberts after isolation?
Well, back to filming Homes Under the Hammer. I mean, we were in the middle of filming Series 25. That all stopped, pretty much like the whole of the TV production industry. So I'll be going back to that. I've written a series of children's books, which I'm really proud of, called The Vills. And they've got a YouTube channel now as well. So if you search The Vills, THEVILLES, there's stuff for kids on that. So I'm going to be working on those children's books. I've got my charity, which is Martin Roberts Foundation.org.uk, which is all about children's mental well-being and supporting the work of the NSPCC and Childline. And we're hoping to get a book which I've written called Sadsville out to every single 8 and 9-year-old in the UK to help with their own mental well-being. That's the project, which is very much this year. Getting that out to every single school in the UK in October, and then hopefully to every single child aged 8 and 9 soon after that. And then just trying to be a dad as well.
Thank you very much for all of your philanthropy efforts. That sounds absolutely amazing what you're doing there.
Well, it's a pleasure. It means a lot to me. I've been involved in the NSPCC since I was a child, and my mum used to work for them, and so I grew up with them. So anything I can do because they are receiving a lot more calls right now. Obviously, children struggling this whole period. So whatever we can do to help them, and whatever I can do to help them, that's another thing that will make you feel better about yourself at the end of the day.
Martin, thanks a lot. Myself and my fiance, we're dead keen to come to one of your seminars when we're all kind of back to normality. So it'd be good to catch up with you and maybe grab a drink with you after.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. We'll make that happen.
Yeah, for sure. Good stuff, buddy. Thanks a lot, and have a lovely weekend. Enjoy the sunshine, and all of the best and love to your family as well.
You too. Look after yourself.
Thank you very much, buddy. Catch you later on.
Bye. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Martin Roberts, what an absolute legend. Homes Under the Hammer, I'm a Celebrity. He's even got his own property investment seminars across the country right now. Obviously webinars, because we are in isolation. If you love that show, Martin Roberts, what a fantastic guy, legend. Feel free to check out his website. He's got a lot of information on there. And I was going through some of the pictures. He gets a lot of well-known celebrities attend his seminars across the country. As soon as we're out of isolation, I'm going to get a couple of free tickets from him, and we're certainly going to rock up to some of his seminars very soon. But yeah, what a great guy. We've got more property experts coming your way. I've interviewed them. They are coming your way. So it'd be great to get different opinions, different angles about the property market, where it's heading, where you should invest. So stay tuned for that. These episodes are going to be coming your way on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Spotify very, very soon. Guys, don't forget the Johny Pach Show. It's all about giving back. It's all about educating you guys. It's all about inspiring you and motivating you for success in your lives. If you like the show, we always respect and appreciate your comments. So feel free to put them out there. Share as much as you can. Let's get as much exposure to the property market as we can. It isn't all doom and gloom. Let's get it out there. It's the time to invest right now. You're listening to the Johny Pach Show once again. Stay safe, stay well, stay inspired, get investing. I will see you on the next show. Johny Pach signing out.